Welcome, Design and Technology. So we're going to have a look at some of the features of the course that you've picked. We'll have a look a little bit at the exam, we'll have a look at some coursework and talk about the kind of things that we're going to be doing over the next 2 years. So first of all, I'll give you just a very quick brief outline of what the course entails. So 50% of your final grade comes from your coursework mark, 50% will come from it at the end. So if we look a little at coursework first of all, so it's got to be a substantial design and make task. You would have done something similar, but it wouldn't have been as, so it's 50% of your total grade, as we've said. It's worth 100 marks overall, and you follow what's referred to as an iterative process. So it's where you're looking to make constant improvements to your work all the way through, or to your designs all the way through. So you'd start off with your first design idea, then you'd make some modeling to show how it would work. You would test it, you would interview people, then you would base your next idea around the improvements that they've suggested. And you do this 3 or 4 times throughout your folder before you come up with your final design idea. So it should show that you are an independent thinker, that you can think for yourself and not just copy ideas from anywhere else that you've seen them. So the kind of things you're going to be doing, your exploration is where you you do some research and some experimentation, then some basic sketching, then you're designing, where you'd look at a bit more, look at your ideas in a bit more depth and perhaps start to justify them, make decisions about them. You start to do a bit of development there, so different options that you could take in terms of what you're going to make and how you're going to make it. Then you do your making, it's obviously quite a big part of your project. Then the last thing you do is some analysis and some evaluation. Now, lots of that you'll be doing right the way through your folder anyway, so it's something that you'll do right the way through, but there's a big chunk of it that you do at the end as well. Now, we're looking for a high level of designing techniques. So we need to look at lots of different ways that we can produce ideas, coming up with those high-level ideas to help you get good grades. Right, it also helps if you have a real live client. Okay, so the project as to what you choose. Now, we'll give you some helpers and some guidance, but the actual project is up to you. But it has to be something that's kind of new and innovative, where you've shown some good creativity in coming up with the idea. Okay, you can't just choose something that's already out there and copy it. You have to be very independent about what you do. These are some examples of some pages, the kind of things that we. So this could be this is rather an ideas page or a couple of ideas pages. Shows that they've used different techniques. So they've used some 3D CAD in here. They've used some pencil drawings. They've used some marker pens to produce their ideas. So that's kind of the things that we're looking for. And we'll show you how to do those when we get into. Okay. Right, this is a product analysis page. So it's very detailed. They've written a lot about this actual product and how it could be made. The advantages and disadvantages of the product. They've looked at some of the materials down the right hand side, some packaging for it perhaps, so lots of information that they can then relate back to things that they can actually use in their project. Table there in the middle. In the past we've had people make things like homeless shelters or car trailers or those sorts of things, or a mobile phone connected pet feeder. We had somebody make last year, which was quite a challenging project to make. And that's the kind of things that you need to look at. You need to push yourselves and challenge yourselves to come up with something new, something that possibly hasn't been done before, or something that's kind of already out there but could be improved massively. Okay, so these are some quite good examples, but we'll look at some alternatives when you start the course. Right, so the second bit that we need to look at the exam. So there are maths and science contribution of 15%. So 15% of the marks is enough for your total mark. 1 hour, 30 minutes. It's linked to the designing and making principles of your course. There are some product analysis questions that amount to about 30 marks. And they are, there's a section then on commercial manufacture, so they'll give you some products and talk about how they're made in industry. Maths and science skills, again, in this count for 15% of your overall mark. There's a mixture of short answer questions and some extended response questions. Some places that you could visit, but lots of these places have online exhibitions that you can look at. So I know the Design Museum has some online exhibitions where you can look at some past exhibitions that they've had, and there's some tasks associated with those. The V&A is quite good as well, and the Jeffrey Museum. So have a look at all three of those online to see what you can find and some examples of the types of products that they exhibit. If it's possible to visit them, they're always good places to go, so you can actually have not so much hands-on, but you can actually see the products in front of you to get some idea of size and scale and form and that sort of thing. So it is quite a useful place to go. But in terms of after A-level, these are some of the options that you could. This was just a very short little thought that I gave as to what you could do. So architecture, we have lots of people that go into architecture, having done A-level DT each year. So people go into architecture, some people go into architectural engineering, some people go to interior architecture. So there's lots of options there that you can look at. Right, being a product designer is a good career to have. An industrial design is good. Something in computing where perhaps you're looking at programming and the electronics that might go inside a product is good. Sports design is always evolving in terms of the equipment or whatever that they might use in sport. Furniture design is always quite popular. Model making, interior design is a good one. Being a design engineer, where you're linking up lots of different possible things within DT. So it could be electronics, it could be engineering, it could be the product design element, and they all kind of come together where you design a product from start to finish. If you're going into sort of drama, things like stage set design is always quite good, because you're going to have to, you can design things that look nice, but you also need to explain how you're going to make them perhaps. Going into some trades, it's always quite useful to have a DT qualification. There's also many other design-based university courses and possible careers that you can look at. So I would look at all of the ones that are available, look at all of the courses that are available to you. There are lots of them out there that might be useful for you to look at. Right, in terms of expectations, we want you to have an interest in design and the subject as a whole, okay? You will need to put in hours outside of your lesson time, okay? You need to put in some time from free periods or after school to complete practical work, okay? Always have the correct equipment, which is obvious, okay? Next one's important. Have a good attitude to learning and a good work ethic. The work ethic bit is important. If you don't keep on top of your coursework, it will consume lots of your time towards the end of the course when you need to be thinking about all of the subjects that you're doing and not just DT. So getting stuff done early in your course is always quite useful. Right, you need to be independent in your learning, so you need to be self-driven, not sit around waiting for people to tell you exactly what to do. You need to take your project on as much as you can. Right, okay, so that was quite important, and is good as well, implementing the feedback you're given into your work, and being creative and imaginative, which is something we said about making sure you have when you're coming up with your project ideas. So those are all quite important expectations that we would have of you if you're in technology. And you should have a possible realistic bit is quite important. I mean, it's possible to come up with whatever idea you want and get that down on paper, but you have to remember that you have to make it. You have to do some research into how you can make it, and then you'll actually have to make it at the end. So whatever you're going to produce, whatever you're going to design, it's got to be realistic in that you can actually make it with the time, the equipment, the resources, the materials you have available to you. What I would like you to do is to watch, there's a video series on YouTube and possibly a BBC iPlayer as well, called The Big Life Fix. And what they did is they got together a load of people or situations where people were having issues in their lives that could only be solved by designing a product. Then they got a load of designers together and gave them the problems to solve. They came up with some quite innovative and useful solutions to some of the problems that the people had. So have a look through those. There should be 2 series of them that you might be able to find, and see what kinds of things that you can see that could be solved. So it might give you some project ideas, but as a minimum, it will show you or give you some guidance as to the process that you would go through in terms of designing your product. There's lots of iterative design solutions that are in there, where they've looked at a couple of basic solutions to start with, and then they've come back to see how they can solve them by just making some small minor improvements, or having some feedback from the actual user. Okay, so you can see from that some possibilities, and also how feedback from the client or the user can help to improve things. Okay, so that's everything from me. So hopefully I'll see you in September, and you'll have some great project ideas.